There we are. We've got the little red flag in the corner. Red flag is probably wrong, the wrong nomenclature. We've got a red button, clock. It's a clock. Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Margaret Pinard. You're here on my channel. Welcome to BookTube. It is time for a Wednesday wrap-up. I've only got 2 books that are completely finished, but I've got some almost finished that I'm still processing. So we'll have some read and some almost read. So hopefully you can get in with that. Right off the bat, I wanted to say I've got some great links to share. So upcoming event is tomorrow. I'll be doing a productivity sprint with Emma Bennett on her channel. So I just wanted to plug that to make sure everyone knew I'm going to be on the internet, just not here in my house, over in Emma Bennett's house. So that should be fun. 1 p.m. my time, 9 p.m. England time, I believe. So that's in the future. And then the other thing that is in the past and future readathon reference there, is yesterday we had our first Tuber book club discussion of Dulci's Legacy. If you don't know, I wrote this book 9 years ago. Actually, more than that. I published this book 9 years ago, Dulci's Legacy, and it's my second book. It's a YA, sort of supernatural fantasy, and it's not very long, but they're dividing it into 2 halves for discussion. And it was so fun to listen to the book club discuss where they thought it was going and what they liked and like some of the slow spots. It was great. I loved hearing all the details about this book. Barrett's here. Barrett's read this book too. So yeah, that was just like really fun, and I encourage you all to check out the discussion. And here's the last minute thing that I just thought of, and I popped it in the description. It's International Women's Day. Happy Women's Day. And I don't know, I'm going to run a sale. Let's see if it all comes out in one comment. This is kind of a long comment. It did not. That's fine. So I've got a bunch of copies of Dulci's Legacy, and I heard someone remarking during the Tuber Book Club that Kindles aren't real books, which I disagree with. But in case anyone out there is of that opinion and is not harming anyone else with that opinion, and they want a physical copy, they're usually $15, but I will sell it for $10 plus shipping. So it's usually like $3 in the US. So if you want a physical copy, I will sign it. I will personalize it. You can make it a gift. I can sign it to someone else and ship it anywhere in the US. So that's 33% off because I've got extra inventory, and why not? You're making me excited about the book again. So Tuber Book Club, run by Books by Adrian and co-hosted by Ben Pick at Running to Write and Shannon at SD Houston. You made me feel good about some old work, some backlist work. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. That was great. So that's a sale. In case anyone's interested, I will be doing that today. I wanted to say hello to the friends in the chat. Hello, Shannon. Hello, RC. And hello, Barrett. And hello, Anita. Nice of you guys to step in and say hello. I know Barrett's living the high life out in Florida, which is pretty awesome. I hope everyone is taking some time for me time and treat yourself time. It's a good day for that, right? Okay, so I think I covered everything so far. So we're going to jump into my read books so far. So I did start the Irish Readathon books, but didn't finish any yet. So for the first March 8th Wednesday wrap, it's going to be sort of the in-between the Black Author Tuber Readathon books and the Irish Readathon books. So what do we have first? Kenny, show them what they've won. So the first book is called Goodbye Things by Fumio Sasaki. And I had this on my wish list for a while, but I'm glad I didn't buy it. I got it from the library, and I'll turn those pages back up when I return it. It wasn't that long. There's lots of white space. It is a minimalist book, so it's, as you would suspect, spare of prose and there's also a section of photos at the beginning where he shows different minimalists' cribs, like a little crib talk. And so that was interesting. But this guy was an editor in a publishing house in Japan and had a pretty sad life by his own admission, and then decided to do discarding things, decided to try minimalism and made himself happier in the process and sort of configured it for himself and figured out what works for him and shared it in this book. Now, here's the thing. It's Japanese minimalism. I'm coming at this from the angle of I already love Marie Kondo. So he makes reference to a handful, or more than a handful of other Japanese minimalists, sorry. And he does talk about her and that she's not a minimalist, she's a organizer, right? So there's a difference. She declutters, she organizes, but part of her process is also discarding. So they both tackle the emotional side of decluttering, which I really enjoy hearing about and appreciate the reminders of, and little motivators. But I think Marie Kondo just does it so much better, and I'll show you some instances why. So I'll share a few pieces that I liked from this book, and then a few pieces that exhibit why it didn't really feel like it was hitting me. So we can go into that. And if there are any Marie Kondo fans in the chat, put your hand up. Put your hand up. She's great. I love the Kon Marie. Okay, so the positive side. So we've got 104. He had a lot of lists, like 25 things that do this, and 33 things that do this, and 5 ways that do this. And that's not really my jam as a structural thing, but leaving that out of it. 24, let go of the idea of getting your money's worth. So money, roots, this is also mixed up in the emotional stuff. One reason why we tend to think it's a waste to discard something is that the item might have been expensive when we first bought it. Somewhere in the back of our minds, we're thinking that we haven't gotten our money's worth yet. But what's really happening is that it's taking up space in your home and your mind. Every time you look at it, you can't help but think that it was a mistake to buy that gorgeous outfit in the first place. We should let go of the concept of getting our money's worth and cut our losses sooner rather than later. It's easier on your wallet in the long run, not to mention easier for maintaining peace of mind. I like this principle. It's sort of similar to don't throw good money after bad as like a financial maxim. However, and here's a funny thing about me. When I need to get myself to do something that I don't want to do, I put it out in plain sight so that it creates that drag on my consciousness that he's talking about. That every time you look at it, you're reminded. You have a little ping of pain. Oh, I should get that done. So I'm using his thing that is negative to get myself to do something. And I've considered that lately and thought, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Am I giving myself more pain in an effort to try to get myself to be more productive? I don't know. If you have thoughts on this, or if you have this same thinking cycle, let me know, because I think I'm kind of weird about doing this. But like, I will leave something in the path of walking in my hallway, for example, if it needs to go out, so I don't forget it. I still forget stuff near the door. Did it just recently. I went to a poetry reading, and I had a book to bring the person who I was seeing, and I forgot it on the table right next to the door. But usually, like, I'll put it somewhere that it requires me to think about or go around or whatever. But I sometimes am so much focused on the thing that I am on autopilot. I don't know. If this resonates with anyone, let me know if you agree or disagree or agree with Fumio, because this is interesting to me, and I don't know if I'm adding positively to my life or negatively. So weigh in, do please. Okay, so that was one positive thinking point. The next one was page 195. I'd rather regret something I've done than something I wish I had done. So, he gives a couple of examples. He references the Zygarnik effect, which says that people remember things that they once pursued and left incomplete more than they do the things that they had not, or things that they had completed. And I had to read that like 6 times because it didn't make sense to me. But if you remember something that you left incomplete, I would think that bugs you more than something you had completed and you didn't remember. I think that's the point, but I finally got it. And he says, "That's why I wrote this book. I may regret it later, but I'm sure I would have regretted not doing it more. Overall, taking action leads to happiness." Okay, I agree with the principle. Um, yeah, interesting. These are the positive ones. I don't know why I'm getting critiquey here, but okay, let me catch up on the chat before I read the last one, which is the more thought-provoking piece. Richard is here. Hello, hello. Wishing the luck of the Irish to us all. Barrett's going to try the Margaret Pennard trip over method. I don't know, positive or negative to overall well-being. Who knows? Richard says, I do put things I need in places I'll see them when I'm on the way out. Are you a minimalist? I don't know. That's not related to minimalism, but it is related to a drag on your consciousness. So this is like what I'm thinking of. Okay, so the third positive thing, it's why he kept all these books. So he had like over 1,000 books. I don't know, lots of books, just like I do. And I thought about this recently in recent videos for tags. So it got me thinking, and then I read this. I was desperate to convey my worth through my books. They were there to communicate one message. I've read a lot of books to date. As anyone who looks at my bookshelves can see, my interests are diverse and I'm very inquisitive. I think that's a bad translation. I know all about these different topics, if only in name. Though I haven't read all the books yet, I'm definitely interested in these areas. Of course I am. That's why the books are sitting there on the bookshelf. I may not understand everything that's discussed in these books, but I've read huge volumes of works, including an array of publications on complex issues. I'm not very talkative, and I may look like a plain, ordinary guy, but inside I'm filled with all this incredible knowledge. Perhaps I can be described as an intellectual with depth. I guess this is kind of like tongue-in-cheek, because this is like the message he's come to understand he wanted to send with having all these books. And so this is why he gives it up, because he's like, nope, I want to be a person in a certain way and not try to make my stuff speak for me being that person. So that's a great point. You know, your stuff isn't who you are. There's validity in that. But when I read this, I was like, is this why? Because when I was talking about having all these books and thinking like, I'm okay with this being my worst vice because what it says about me is, and I sort of said this exact thing, is that I value books, I value knowledge, I value research, true facts, etc. And am, I don't know, always interested in diving into something sort of randomly as a mood reader. So I have lots of things to dive into randomly. And so it just made me question, I don't know. So here's my little question for you guys. I have books to show what I value. This is the sort of neutral version of that statement. Do you agree or disagree? So Fumio Sasaki has some sort of take on this, and I have another sort of take on this. So feel free to let me know in the comments your take on this while I take a sip of tea. My voice is pretty much back to normal, but the nose is still full of gunk. So, last notification. Second Saturday of the month when we usually do karaoke. Barrett is still in Florida and I am still gunked up. So we're going to switch it to the third Saturday this month. So hopefully that works for everyone else. It'll be on Barrett's channel, and stay tuned for more info on that. Maybe we'll even have a theme this month too. Get ambitious. All right, well, I will leave this up as a scroller. How about that? People can digest it. And then keep reading, because I got 2 more things here. The stuff that I wasn't as keen on reading, and I got to maybe 2/3 of the book and was like, it just was not hitting, but I wanted to finish it to get like the points that he was making, because there's all these lists, right? So yeah, so I was reading pretty fast towards the last third. But here's one, page 149. Don't think, discard. He's referencing one of Bruce Lee's famous lines from Enter the Dragon. Went right over my head. There was a day when I suddenly got sick and tired of having so many important-looking bank books at home and threw them all into the shredder. Asterisk. A bank book is a pocket-sized book of official transaction records for your bank account. So it's like your check register, but apparently you have this for the bank in Japan. I figured I'd manage somehow, so I went ahead and did it, and then afterward I went to Yahoo Answers and asked, is it okay to throw away a bank book? Rather than think about it, I followed my instinct. Later on, I took the necessary steps to close the account and had no problem whatsoever. The bank teller was just a little stunned when I explained what I had done. You discarded your bank book? Question mark. So, like, this just seems irresponsible. Like, I'm going to throw all this stuff away. I'm sure it'll be fine. People lose stuff in a fire, so I'm sure there's ways to get around it. Like, isn't that creating a problem for yourself tomorrow? Because you have a impetuous desire today? Yeah, that's just one of the things that's like didn't hit right and made me think this is for a different person than I am, you know? Slow decider, not impetuous. Okay, and then another one, page 176. The freedom to move. So he's talking about freedoms that he's gained since he's become a minimalist. Here, I did a sticky for this one instead of a corner. Or in addition to a corner, actually. He starts off this freedom with, isn't it true that birds are free to soar high into the sky because their nests are simple and they aren't weighed down by the need to accumulate things? No, Fumio, that is not why birds are free to soar into the sky. It's a whole scientific thing. So, yeah, I just didn't appreciate the taking of popular imagery or cultural metaphors that were inaccurate and sticking it in here to make it sound nice and sort of, I don't know, free. So, I don't know when I rate this. Probably like a 2.75 or a 3. It's interesting. It's got good points. It's his personal journey, so I don't want to discount his experience, but not really written for me. So I'm glad I got it from the library. So that is book number 1. Let's see if anyone's answered the question. Emma's here. Emma missed my shout out. I already directed people to your channel tomorrow. Cooking supper, but getting my Pinard fix for the day. I appreciate that. Bonnie being Bonnie, hello, welcome. Maybe when it comes to nonfiction, then again, I read a lot that I don't necessarily agree with. Huh. I have books to show what I value. Nonfiction. But do you keep it? Do you keep the stuff that you don't agree with on your shelf? That's, I guess, the follow-up question to this. And I guess I mean not so much the content of like, these are the people I agree with, but like the fact that you have a nature memoir section or that you have a Jane Austen section, because those are the things that you love and value. And if someone came in, as Fumio considers, if someone came into your home and was like, oh, you like Jane Austen, I like her too. Or, oh, you like Jane Austen, you're so erudite. I don't know, maybe that's a thing. So to show what you appreciate, like what art you choose on your walls. I guess it's a related, just a different sort of angle. I'm in the corner. Yeah, I wouldn't keep stuff I don't agree with because I wouldn't love it, maybe. Yeah. And so that's like getting into the, if you don't love it, if it doesn't spark joy, you don't keep it, you discard. Yeah. I don't know. I'm still thinking about this one, but that's a nice thought-provoking question that he wrote. He came to the conclusion that he didn't like his things speaking for his character. He wanted his character to show itself in his actions and not be concerned with other people's reactions, which is totally fair. But yeah, I think I have like slightly different view on the book hoarding. And again, I may regret that when we have an earthquake and my books all fall on me, as he pointed out, being in Japan having earthquakes. But yeah. Okay, so that's the first book. The second book I have an overlay for because I had an ebook, and that is historical romance. Mimi Matthews, Return to Satterthwaite Court. So, oh, the last thing that I was going to say about the other book, I'll do this before I pop this up, is that I just read an Afro Minimalism book in my previous month's wrap up for February. It's pretty comparable in terms of how it hit for me, and that it wasn't feeling really compelling for where I am at the moment, because I've read a fair amount of minimalism and decluttering books, but also it might work for someone else who is not as had not had as much exposure to that sort of reading. And it also has some great, interesting personal realizations and humorous metaphors. So yeah, so those two, I just wanted to sort of draw a line between similar books I'd read recently. I don't know why the topic has come up, but yeah. Okay, Return to Satterthwaite Court. So this is an ARC, an advanced reading copy. It's actually an advanced... No, it is a reading copy. I got the ebook version. I was going to say it was an audio, but it's not. So I'm going to have a standalone review of this book to help out the author, since I'm part of the street team or whatever you want to call it. So that's pretty cool. It's historical romance. It's set in the 1840s, so a little different. I have read 5 Mimi Matthews books now, so she's definitely a favorite author. She writes sweet romance. And here's where I'm going to shout out to Shannon Esty Houston, who provided me with this link from Sweet Savage Flame. So if you've ever been confused with levels of heat and romance and titles and labels and sort of getting sucked into this debate, there is a very helpful chart that Sweet Savage Flame put up on their blog, and I use this as a reference. I've just dropped the link in the chat, but I checked with it. It said, kisses and closed door sex scenes, if any. No other sexual partner. A declaration of love is essential. So that's where it fits on the scale, in case anyone is wondering, just to like be specific. Mimi Matthews does really great historical settings. She pops all over the 19th century. So she does different generations of characters that are all sort of related, which I love. She does Regency historical romance as well as Victorian in different eras. So like I have an 1880s book and an 1820s book and an 1830s book. And she's got Regency like 1820s as well as 1840s as well as 1860s. And you get to see the costumes change and the, famous watering holes change. And all in all, I really appreciate the fact that she brings in so seamlessly all of her historical research. Before she started this, like, she's on like 15 books. She's got a lot of books out. Before she started that, she had an amazing nonfiction blog, and she's even got a couple nonfiction books out that are about historical detail. And so, she's really got a fine-tuned understanding of the background details, the types of places you would go on a daily basis, the types of meals you would have. So Ben was just talking about tasting the novel. He likes having real food referenced in the books during Dulci's legacy, which is funny. So the food is good, the dresses are good, the like daily life and mannerisms and like expectations is really good. So like all that historical stuff is just catnip. And then there's the sweet romance love story, which is perfectly angsty and delicious and juicy. And I like different types, different levels of heat, but this is one of the sweet romance that I really, really love because of how it comes together. So yes, I will be doing a standalone book review of Return to Satterthwaite Court later in the month, but just thought I'd pop it on here, tell you how much I liked it. That's it. That's it for this. That's my little teaser. All right. Let's see. So Bonnie says, for some reason, I think I would save them for reference. The nonfiction she didn't agree with. I definitely own more nonfiction than fiction. Interesting. Yeah, the question I normally ask people when we get to talk about books is, what's your ratio of read to non-read books in your library? Because it's very revealing about your philosophy about books. So, yeah, having um, reference books is a good reason. Um, so Richard says, "Surely reading books we disagree with is healthy for our emotional and intellectual intelligence. Otherwise, our bookshelves become an echo chamber, and we have enough of those as it is." Absolutely, but we don't have to keep them. Yes, we get to yeet those books that we disagree with. I like that. Agree, agree. There's a certain irony to owning a collection of minimalism and decluttering books. Yes, and I don't own them. The Afro Minimalism book and the Goodbye Things book, library books, but I've read them. So I think I need a bigger house, not less books. By then, it would be a complete library. Minimalists advise you to give their books away when you've finished. Yes. Hi, guys. Hi, Savion. Bonnie says, I have a lot of free time. I read a lot. Me too. But not fast enough for the like decreasing rate in the house for some reason. It's like magic. It's like there's a magic sieve somewhere refilling. I don't know. I don't know how. Okay. So those are the two books I read in between the Black Author Tuber Readathon and the Irish Readathon. But here, now we've got almost read books. So sorry, I'm getting stuff done again. I guess this happens when I talk. And before we get into the almost read books, just in case anyone is curious and wants the physical book, $10 book sale, actual physical book, inspired by Richard's comments yesterday on the Tuber Book Club, $10 plus shipping, and I will personalize it to whoever you want and send it to anywhere in the US. So there you go. Reminder on today for Women's Day. Okay, so then almost read books. I've got one that's an overlay, so let's pop that one up because I know that'll get people interested. So this was an arc as well. I think it might have come out yesterday. It's called Sex Talks. It's by Vanessa Marin, and accompanied by Xander Marin. So this is a married couple. She's a sex therapist, and they are huge on Instagram, apparently. And so started this business that is like a social media side of her sex therapy work, and wrote the book. So this is just coming out. 5 conversations that will transform your love life. And this is like adding to the theme of self-help / psychology of relationships books, and it was fantastic. I'm thinking of doing like a top 5 or favorite 5 psychology of relationships books, because while this does go into like really explicit things, to be clear about them so that we're not just talking in innuendo where there can be lots of misunderstanding, because she's trying to be clear. It also includes a lot of psychology of intimacy and examples of people talking it out, examples of scripts if you're really nervous talking about sex stuff. And so I just like really, really like this book. I skipped over 2 sections because I was excited about one at the end, but now I'm going back and I've listened to the one on connection, which is really great. It's talking about physical intimacy versus emotional intimacy, and how some people need one before the other, and often in a couple they're opposite. So some people need physical intimacy to feel connected, and some people need emotional intimacy to feel connected. And if you don't get one before the other, you're in a sort of like, I don't know, uh, I don't know, Chinese finger trap, Mexican pickle. I can't remember what the metaphor is for one before the other, but you know what I'm trying to say. So like really interesting things, and like normalizing all these healthy behavior and calling out like accepted stuff that really shouldn't be. And I don't know, I just really, really liked it. So definitely recommend this. It's on Libro.fm, and we love Libro.fm for audiobooks, so check them out. That's where I got my ARC. And let's catch up on the comments because it looks like we've got some reaction to the sexy talk. Yes. Here we go. All right. So no comments, just being funny. All right. So yeah, so I'm gonna finish that one section which is about desire and libido that I skipped, but um that's an hour, so I'm almost finished. And I'm very excited to like give a real in-depth review of this book and, you know, embarrass everybody watching on the channel. So yes. So there's that. Let's go back to the banner here and bring this down so we're all set. The other almost read books. This one is a reread that I've been rereading for a while. Boundless Heart, The Buddha's Path of Kindness, Compassion, Joy, and Equanimity by Christina Feldman. It was a 5-star when I read it, and I'm almost done. I think I'm working on equanimity. So, like I said, this is going to be interesting to read right before I pick up Bittersweet by Susan Cain. She's a much more famous author, but they seem a little in conflict. So I'll be probably talking about those books together when I review them. And then the last almost read is the Irish Readathon book pick number 1, Edna O'Brien. She's a very famous Irish writer, and especially like 60s, 70s, 80s, I think. And this is her memoir called Mother Ireland. And I'm only like halfway through it. 2 chapters, I guess. It's a short book. It's for the short prompt. But she's got a really interesting writing style. It's not quite stream of consciousness, but it's definitely grabbing things out of the air as examples to make it feel very lively in the text. So far, she's talked about the country in general, coming back to it after living in London for a long time in the 70s, like in the early 70s. So it's a different kind of place. And rebelling against the stereotypes that internationals have of the Irish, which is like jolly storytellers, which she's like, that's not what we are. And then the second chapter was about her hometown and basically townlands and like rural feelings and how people existed together and like what sort of craziness just sort of lived alongside everything else, which is interesting. Yeah. So another great book I'm going to be looking forward to talking about next week for the Irish Readathon. So that's the read and the almost read. I've given you my upcoming events, which is appearing on Emma Bennett's channel tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific. I've given you my past recent events of note, which is the Tuber Book Club discussion of Dulci's Legacy and the sale that's going on today for a physical copy. And the second part of the discussion, when everyone has finished the book, is going to be on the 21st. And then I am going to come on the Tuber Book Club and talk to them as the author of said book on April 4th. So look forward to those on Books by Adrian's channel. I think they did a really great job, had a really thoughtful commentary, and would love to support the mission of that book club. So there we go. Anything else? Let's see. I've got my notes for exactly that reason. I think that's it. I think that's it for me today, especially because my nose is getting all stuffy. Let's see. Oh, this is the last thing. So the Patreon book club has a book every other month. So March, I'm having people help me decide which one. So far, The Library of Legends by, I just forgot her first name. Janie? It's Janie. Janie Chang. So yes, that's the one that's winning, which is historical fiction set in China, early 20th century, I believe. So that could be interesting, but I've got 2 other books on there. The poll will go up on Friday on my community tab if you are curious and want to weigh in. But ultimately, the group will be deciding that reads it. So That's all I have for you today. Check out the before and after, check out the past and future, get ready for, I don't know, readathons coming up, or ask a question. I appreciate that you're here watching and being part of the BookTube community on my channel. So thank you so much. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye, everybody.